So we're gonna make a Disney podcast.
Since when? Like right now?
How do you feel about that?
Look, I don't feel prepared, but I guess we can do it.
I mean, we've invested a lot of money in learning about Disney.
I've spent more money on Disney than I spent on our cars, our children's college educations.
What? Our children haven't gone to college, so we're young. Or no, I just mean we have time to spend more on Disney.
Oh, then there's that too.
Hello and welcome to We Don't Talk About Disney, a podcast where we discuss everything Disney, from theme parks, trip planning, and media to news and lore. I'm Laura, and this is my husband,
Matt.
We are partners in life and partners in our love of Disney. We believe a dream is a wish your heart makes, and we're glad you're here. This is the first episode of our Disney World Newbie series. We hope that you'll find it interesting and helpful, whether you're planning your first trip or your 50th trip. But for this series, we'll assume that listeners have little to no knowledge or experience with the parks. Today, we're going to endeavor to answer the question, should I take a vacation to Walt Disney World? Walt Disney World Resort in Central Florida is a massive vacation destination that has something for everyone. There are 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, 2 mini golf courses, and 4 golf courses. What's the opposite of a mini golf course?
Maximum golf?
There are 4 maximum golf courses. So is a Disney World vacation in your future, and should it be? What do you think, Matt? Should they take a Walt Disney World vacation?
The short answer is yes.
Yes.
If you're listening to this, you should take a vacation to Disney World. Partially because you're listening to this because you want to take a vacation to Disney World. So it's at least worth looking into. It's always such a hard question to answer because the first thing people think about is money when they think about Disney World. But I'm going to ask that at least for a little while, you don't think about money as far as whether or not you should go to Disney World.
Sure, dream big.
Dream big. So money and finances is its own conversation. Listener, I don't know you. I don't know your financial situation. You need to decide for yourself, is it something that you can afford? What we will probably talk about here is more of, is if you can't afford it, is it something that you want to do with that money? Is it something that you want to do with your time?
Right. Is it worth the investment?
Is it worth the investment? And so listen, we're a Disney podcast. Yes, it's worth the investment. We can probably give you any excuse you need to push yourself over the edge if you're looking into a Disney World vacation.
All right. Cool. Yes, I agree. According to, and I'm going to cite some different like facts and figures, and I will put all the places that I got that info in the show notes if you're interested. But according to getnux.com, I don't know what that name means, but 58 million people visit Disney World every year, and it is the most visited theme park in the world. So there are a lot of people on our side that think, yes, it is worth it to take a vacation to Disney. I love Disney World. It's my favorite place to go. But I think there are some things that you should be aware of before you make the decision to take yourself or your family. So I do occasionally hear about folks who have a bad time at Disney. I think, in my opinion, most of these bad experiences have to do with either poor planning or unrealistic expectations. But I also recognize that there are some folks out there who just aren't Disney World people. And if you've never been, or you haven't been in a long time, maybe you haven't been as an adult, it might be difficult to tell, is it worth it? Am I going to have a good time? But I think with a little insider info, you can be confident that your trip will meet your expectations and you will have a good time. So our first question is, am I a Walt Disney World person? Am I the kind of person that's going to have a good time and feel like when I invested this time and money into taking this vacation to this place that I'm going to feel good about it, that I did it? Well, I think there are some things you should be aware of. The first one, obviously, Disney World is a theme park, albeit I think a beautiful and unique one, which is why it's the most popular theme park in the world. But because it's a theme park, there are some things that you're going to have that you just can't get away from. One of them is crowds. There's going to be crowds. You can go online, and if you Google, there's calendars that predict crowds that I think are pretty accurate. But no matter what week you travel, there's going to be a lot of people at Disney World. There's always a lot of people. And there are going to be times, no, not all the time, but when you do get stuck in the middle of a crowd and you look around, you're like, wow, that's a lot of people. So if crowds really freak you out and it would ruin your trip to have that feeling of like, oh my gosh, like there's so many people here, that could be a deal breaker for you. I mean, there's nothing you can really do to get away from crowds 100% at Disney. However, the flip side of this is that handling crowds well is part of the DNA of Disney. Um, I know that's something that you say, Matt, a lot. Just the Disney World just handles crowds so well. So I don't know, what do you mean when you say that?
So we have an uncanny ability to go to Disney during the most busy times of Disney World's calendar. We try to plan it otherwise, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. So we're pretty qualified to talk about crowds at Disney. Um, we've gone over Christmas, we've gone over President's Day, we've gone when like all the insane cheerleaders are there. That seems to be like the real busy times. And Disney just does such a good job at handling crowds. You almost don't notice that you're in a large amount of crowds. There's a lot to do. The walkways are very wide. You're usually consumed with whatever it is that you're doing on your own, and so sometimes you're shoulder to shoulder. Most of the time, you're not. Um, there's a lot of different places that people can go and thin the crowds out. But if you go in expecting, well, I'm going to have to wait for some things, and I'm going to have to kind of like you're walking down a busy street during a busy time at wherever your hometown is. That's kind of what it feels like. And it just doesn't feel, there's so many cool things to look at and to do while you're in those crowds. It almost just doesn't feel like you're in
Yeah.
a big crowd.
And there's very few. Now you will find some like people call them like pinch points, like areas of wherever you are when there's a lot of people and there's just areas where people get stuck. Those are pretty far and far I said few and far between
Yeah.
um in Disney, I feel like. So there's not a ton of those. I mean, it's gonna happen. So I feel like they do a good job of trying to avoid that kind of thing compared to some other theme parks that I've been to. um but when I say that it's part of the Disney DNA to handle crowds, it really is. So if you haven't been to Disney, if you're not familiar with how they work, dark rides are a huge thing. And they're not, I mean, I know Universal Studios has some dark rides. Outside of that, I'm not really sure that that's a thing that other theme parks do, at least that I'm
Not that I'm aware of.
aware of. And so by dark ride, basically what that entails is it's a ride that's inside. So you go into a building that's usually cleverly disguised. So you may not even realize you're going into a building. You go into a building, and there will be some kind of people mover appliance. It could be a boat, it could be a train, it could be a car, something that is and it's a slow moving track. So you load up, and usually like a lot of people can load up at one time. And the reason why Disney started doing dark rides is because when they started to Walt Disney had these ideas, like for the example, the Haunted Mansion is a classic Disney ride. And so they wanted to have a haunted house at Disneyland. This is, before they started designing Haunted Mansion, before Disney World was open. So they wanted to have this haunted house, and when people are walking through something, you can't control the speed at which they walk. And so when they would trial it and they would do different things and run schematics, they're like, we just can't get enough people through this quickly enough. And so they came up with the idea of the dark ride, or like the people mover, where you just get on and the ride continues to go. And then they know exactly, and I don't know the numbers, but we can get 500 people through this an hour. We can get 300 people through this an hour, whatever it is. And so they time it such that even though there's a huge amount of people in the park, this attraction, now lines can get long, but compared to what they could be, it really keeps their crowds moving and the lines moving. Um, some of the so-called crowdiest times when you're at theme park will be getting into the park and getting out of it. Especially if you leave when the park closes and you get there, I would don't know, within the first hour or two of it opening. So I guess one thing you could do if you really hate crowds is get there late and leave early, but that doesn't sound very much fun to me. Um, However, even when you look out and you're like, wow, there's so many people, they really keep people moving to get into the park quickly. And I've never waited an obnoxiously long time to get through. Also, just be aware like fireworks, nighttime shows, anything where like all the focus and attention is in like one place in the park, you're gonna have a big crowd. However, if you're trying to avoid crowds, those can be really good times to do other things in the park because everyone, the park doesn't close because the fireworks are going on. So you can go get in line for something else or enjoy a different part of the park where there aren't as many people. So, with crowds, also, I think we have to talk a little bit about lines, which we have been. Matt, you're a bit of a line, you have a bit of a line phobia.
I wouldn't call it a line phobia. I'd say more like I have an incandescent, white hot hatred of lines, is probably how
Yes.
I would describe it. And so, if you're listening to this and you think, I don't want to go to Disney World because I don't want to stand in line, good news. You don't really have to. And however much it is that you hate lines, I hate lines more than you. I potentially hate lines more than you hate anything. So Disney has a couple different ways to do it, and this is another one of my philosophies of don't look at the price tag until the trip is over. They have their Genie Plus Pass, which we'll probably talk about a bit more later. But there are passes that you can buy to give you basically a comeback time. So if a line you look and you see the line is like a 2 hour long line, you don't have to wait in that line for 2 hours. You open the app, and we can talk in more detail how this works a bit later, or maybe on another podcast. But you go to the app, you open your Genie Plus part, and you say, I want a return time for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. For whatever reason, that line is always a bit insane. So, and instead of waiting in line for 2 hours, they'll give you a return time, for example, for 2 hours from when you set it. So if you set it at 3 o'clock, they'll give you return time for 5 o'clock, and then you can go do whatever you want for the next 2 hours.
So, listeners, you should also know when Matt gets names wrong, if you are a Disney aficionado and you know it's not Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. It's not because he doesn't know anything about Disney, it's just because he gets names wrong. He's not good with names.
You know that I'm paying attention if I get the name wrong. So you get a comeback time. And now you do have to wait in line a little bit because you're coming back the same time some other people are, and you have to wait to get on the little conveyor belt and stuff like that. But your wait time isn't 2 hours. You go and do something, you come back, your wait time is actually maybe closer to 15 minutes. We've done trips where we have had a hard time getting from ride to ride to ride in order to make our return times at the time. Like we've just sprinted ride to ride to ride with this Genie Plus pass. So my wife and daughter don't care at all about lines. They're willing to stay in line. I'm not, and neither is my son. So we use these passes, and it's really great. Now it costs a little bit of money, but you're going to Disney, which costs a lot of bit of money. So you may as well spend a little bit extra to have this convenience. For me, that's what it's worth. Now, if you say, I'm not going to let Disney get a little bit more of my money, I am going to be willing to wait in line, that's fine. Their lines are designed very, very well. Most lines to attractions have interactive elements in them. They've got things that you can look at, things that you can do. For example, there's a Winnie the Pooh ride which has a big honey wall. It's a big electronic honey wall, and so your kids or you can stand there and smear this electronic honey around kind of while you're waiting for the line to progress. So there are things to do. It doesn't always feel like you're in line. So either way you want to go, lines they're going to be there, but it's not a reason to not go.
No, and compared to like we have where we live a really popular roller coaster park. And I'm not I like roller coasters, but I don't like the hugest of the hugest roller coasters anymore. But when I was a teenager, I did. And I mean, we would wait routinely, like for the most popular rides in the park, like 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I'm not doing
I've
that.
never waited anything like that at Disney. So think you can manage lines. Also, there's a lot to do that you don't have to wait in lines for, which we'll get to later. I'm jumping ahead. I want to talk about the good stuff, so I don't um
There's plenty of
skip the
good
bad stuff.
stuff.
Yeah,
We know people who go to Disney and don't even ride rides, and they've gone 3 times, I think, and haven't ridden a ride yet. So, I mean, there's tons for everyone to do. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it, unless it's avoid crowds. Then
right.
you're not going to be doing that.
No. So okay, so another reason why you might think, gosh, Disney sounds fun, but I'm not sure. Maybe you should say no if it does not appeal to you to have a vacation with a high level of activity. You are going to be moving, standing, walking a lot. And I mean a lot. I mean, how, we've looked at our pedometers like after a trip. How many
I mean, it's
steps do you take?
twenty
Miles?
thousand steps a
Yeah.
day. Every day you're in a park, it's 18 to 20,000 steps, and that's if you're thinking, well, those people they go all over the place. No, we are very judicious about where we go and when, and it's 20,000.
Yeah.
It could very easily be a lot more.
Yeah. And we take breaks, and sit down. And so depending on like our, yeah. So there's going to be a lot of walking, a lot of, engaging with attractions, taking different kinds of transportations, depending on where you stay and if you're going to go park to park or what kind of things you want to do, standing in line, be on your feet. However, it is also incredibly accessible. So you may be someone who has like mobility restrictions in your day-to-day life. Maybe you don't use a mobility device. Just be aware that at Disney, no one looks twice. If you need a scooter, if you need a wheelchair, if you need, like a what is that called? The like a not a walker, but
The
like has a seat.
rollator, yeah, the rollator,
Rollator.
the Cadillac of walkers. And you use these things and you walk, and if you get tired, you just it has a
Sit.
seat
Yeah.
on it. You can just take a little break there right on Main Street.
Yeah. Yeah. And no one cares. No one is gonna look at anything. Kids, if your kid will fit in a stroller, use a stroller. You'll be glad that you did. Kids who have not sat in strollers for years will sit in a stroller at Disney just because even if you can walk 20,000 steps a day, your 6-year-old probably can't. So there are ways, if you have mobility restrictions. Um, but yeah, if what you want out of a vacation is laying on a beach, this is not it. Um, but if you don't mind a trip where you're getting up and doing and moving around and being active, then I think it's a lot of fun. I'm not an incredibly like athletic person. I'm a like typically healthy person, but for me it's worth it. I mean, you're having a lot of fun. I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm on my feet, but you will be on your feet.
Yeah, it's I like to say it's an experience, not a vacation. It's not a relaxing. It's not relaxing, but it is stimulating and enjoyable and a lot of fun. I've heard some people say like camping. They go camping and like camping like they have like 2 pieces of flint, and like that's what they take with them. And they'll say, I've never worked harder and I've never felt better. And I get a lot of that when I go to Disney, where I feel like I've never physically exerted myself as much, but I also have never had such a rewarding and enjoyable time. I would also say that if you have mobility issues, I would strongly consider doing a Disney vacation for that reason. And this may be something we talk about a bit more later, but Disney is so good with mobility impaired individuals. They take care of them really well. Lots of, I don't want to say special access, and like you get to see and do things other people don't do. But if you have mobility issues, you're aware of the awkwardness that often comes with going to public events with your mobility device and how weird that can be. And it's just not that way at Disney.
Mm-hmm.
They're very experienced. They know exactly what to do. They make the process very, very easy. We've never had a more accessibly like integratable experience or vacation than Disney World. It's more of a reason to go than a reason not to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very accessible. Also, there's a lot you can do. I think if you are someone that has mobility restrictions, you might show up to a theme park and there not be very many of the attractions that you can do. And so because Disney is designed to be like the whole family can do things together, there's stuff for you that you will be able to do, that you'll be able to enjoy. Even if you maybe don't want to even ride the slow rides, there's other stuff to do. Um, so the third reason maybe a Disney vacation is not for you is if you just don't enjoy the Disney vibe. And if you don't enjoy the Disney vibe, you're probably not listening to this podcast. You probably won't have got that far.
Though we appreciate you.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, here's a podcast that just doesn't talk about Disney, and I'm so sick of Disney, I can't wait to join someone else who won't talk about it. If you've made it this far, we do appreciate you.
Yes, thank you for joining us. But maybe you're on the fence. Maybe you're like, I don't know. I've got kids now. Maybe we should go. Well, I thought we could talk about this a bit. And first of all, just what is the Disney vibe? Sometimes we call it like the Disney magic. What is that magic? Um, well, Walt Disney's inspiration for building Disneyland first and then Disney World was that when he had his kids, he realized that he would take his kids to play places at theme parks or fairs or whatever. And there would be places where the kids would play and the adults would just sit and watch. And he wanted there to be a place where kids and adults can play together. And that vision has been fully realized in Disney theme parks. So you're going to have childlike fun. It's going to be cheesy. It's going to be over the top. It's going to be silly and imaginative. People talk about Disney adults. And I think a Disney adult is just someone who wants to act like a kid or who enjoys acting like a kid. Now, there are places in Walt Disney World with a more adult atmosphere. But if the main thing you want out of a vacation is like serious museums, or like nightlife or sophisticated leisure, I mean, this may not be the spot for you. um, it's
But Disney has those things. Disney does
yes,
have sophisticated nightlife. Their Disney Springs is a lot of things to look at with that. But if that's what you want your focus to be, you probably should go somewhere else. But if you're interested, like you want a date night out, say you get someone to watch the kids, you want a date night out, that is available to you at a Disney
absolutely.
vacation, but it's not going to be the focus.
Absolutely. And you can choose, different vacations have more of the like over the top Disney cartoon kind of theming, but a lot don't. So there's definitely options. Um, it's also, I mean, it's obviously consumer driven. I mean, that's just the whole point, right? It's a perhaps like a capitalist utopia
Sure.
of where things just go right. Which again, if you are not wanting to, I don't know where you even travel. If you want to avoid that, there's really not, unless you're just, wander the streets of Amsterdam or something. There's not a lot of vacation destinations that are not capitalist driven. But along with that, there's some like Disney culture that's kind of behind, not behind, it's not like a secret, but this sort of I don't know, like steeped in the Disney parks. And that I would, I guess, define as like escapist. Um maybe, and it's like this picture of culture where like technology and culture are progressive and positive. So we're moving forward, we're heading to tomorrow, and tomorrow's going to be good. I mean, that's kind of the message of Disney.
Not progressive in the political sense.
No, no, no.
Pro-
Progressive as in progressing, like in Magic Kingdom, there's Tomorrowland. It's about,
which is about 50 years behind now, which is super
well,
fun.
or more, yeah. I mean, it was built a long time ago, but it's the idea of like, we're looking to the future, where has time brought us, and look at all the wonderful progress that humanity has made on the earth, or Spaceship Earth is the big Epcot ball. There's a ride inside the big Epcot ball, and that ride's called Spaceship Earth, and that's kind of the whole theme of that ride is this journey through time, but with a Disney spin. And the world is going somewhere, it's going to be good, dreams come true, you can do the impossible. The world is going somewhere, it's going to be good, dreams come true, you can do the impossible. um Innovation is exciting. And another example of this would be in Magic Kingdom, where there's one of the earliest rides. It was designed by Walt Disney when he was alive, called the Carousel of Progress. I don't know, Matt, how would you describe the carousel of progress to someone who's never you would never even knew about it, right? And when you
I
went
never
on?
knew about it, but I would say it's probably first and foremost, it's a great big beautiful tomorrow. but but it's it's the longest running theatrical show in America, which is really kind of
Oh,
funny.
very
It
exciting.
is, yeah,
It
even
is.
though it's entirely
There's no
animatronics.
humans
There's,
involved,
there's
but
no, there's not. There's pretend humans. Um, how would I describe the Carousel of Progress? It was in the 19, I believe it was the 1950s, 1960s World Fair. It was one of the main attractions, and it's just showing what life used to be like to what life is like now to what life can be like in the future, and it's entertaining and it's kind of goofy and it's slightly misogynistic and it's like kind of all the things that you would expect maybe from a
that was
Walt Disney
designed in the
designed
1960s.
it,
That was, yeah.
and it really and it feels it, and it's fun because they tried to update it to an early 2000s late 90s. They added an extra thing, and when they added it, it was kind of current day, but now that's even a bit
Yeah, it
retro,
looks dated.
which to me adds a lot to the charm of
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
experience.
But yeah, that's the kind of thing you're gonna see. And so I found so I found an article that had Disney in the title, but it really was not to do about Disney. I'll link to it. It's on learningforjustice.org. And this article was making a point that um it's important to teach history accurately, especially when it comes to racial injustice. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. But this is a quote that had to do with Disney. This Professor Jeffries, and he said the Disney version of history is a history in which villains are easily spotted, suffering never lasts long, heroes invariably prevail, and life always gets better. And I think that really is like a good description of kind of like the Disney ethos, if you will. And you'll see that in any Disney cartoon you want to watch, that pretty much is there. And so yeah, if you just really don't like that, then you're not, you know again, Disney World may not be the spot for you to vacation. Personally, I think that Disney is an escape. I can learn my history elsewhere and enjoy a little time in a fairy tale version of the world. And it is really a fairy tale. I think that why do we love fairy tales? Because we can imagine a world where, yeah, the good guy wins and the bad guy loses. And when we work hard, we, can make something of ourselves. But I don't know. I think that there is good in that. And I think that that's something that, like, we and our family have taken, that value of, like, believing in magic and believing things are possible. I think that that's something
Yeah,
I want to have in my life.
people tend to be grouches about things, when things tend to go well or you tend to be having a good time. There's always someone who seems to want to say, well, just wait till you get back to reality, or just wait till the real world kicks in. And I remember our most recent Disney trip, I was sitting there and I was looking at this at sitting on Main Street looking at the castle and just thinking, everyone says when things are good, wait for reality to kick in. Reality, the implication being reality is bad. But why can't reality be the good part? Why can't we also acknowledge that there are really good things that happen in reality?
Hmm.
And I realized that I had this thought about good reality while looking at a fake castle. Like, I'm well aware that that's what was happening. But these Disney trips for us tend to orient to there is real good in the
Hmm.
world, and there are real good things that can happen, and it's okay to be optimistic, and it's okay to look hopefully at things. And I think it's really cool to be pessimistic right now, but I think Disney is really good at, like, it doesn't have to be bad all the
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
and it is also an element of reality that things are good
Yeah.
while you're looking at this plastic castle and all these fake things. But
Right.
they're real. It's really there, and it's really giving you this experience. And I think in a lot of ways it frees you up to feel good about things when you feel like you have a lot of reasons not to.
Yeah. And that's something, in our family, we've had our hardships, and and our kids have been through some difficult things. And I guess like a value of ours is like life is hard, and so we're going to make the most out of what's good. and we're
Mhm.
going to invest in times together. And so that's why for us Disney is worth it. Um because it's something that I feel like hopefully what I would like our kids to get from that is that yeah, we have to work hard and we have to go through difficult things, but there's also good stuff in life. And so it's not all bad. Um we said we weren't going to talk about money. We'll talk a little bit about money. The price is a factor. And you may just decide, you know what, like sounds great, but I would rather spend 2 weeks at the beach than 1 week at Disney. I get it. And so just a little bit on that. So like the average cost of a Disney vacation, this is from parkprodigy.com. And honestly, I feel like these numbers might be a little low. I think this was a recent article, but um it sounds a little low to me. So they said the average cost of a Disney vacation per day per person. If you're staying at a value or a moderate resort, which are the cheaper Disney resorts, 225 to $240 per person per day. If you're staying at a deluxe resort, are you doing math? Because I already did the math.
Well, I'm trying to do math, but
Um,
we'll see if our math numbers are the same.
if you're staying at a deluxe resort, which would be the more expensive resorts, $245 to $285 per person per day. So that's including park admission, your hotel, and a budget for daily meals, which can vary a lot. So I'm not exactly sure what numbers they figured in. Using these numbers, if we say, okay, that's about average or that's fair, for a 5-day vacation for a family of 4, that's a minimum of $4,500.
Actually, that's probably fair, I'd say.
Yeah, that probably is fair. And I'm willing to cut some corners on a Disney vacation. I don't think you have to enjoy yourself. You don't have to get the best of everything. But I really don't expect to spend less than $5,000 on a Disney
I didn't
vacation.
expect to spend less than $7,000. And you can see which one of us is the one that actually looks at the price
Yeah.
tag for things. Now, again, don't look at the price tag till you're home. That's the way.
Or don't at all. It's
or
fine.
don't at all. That's why you have a
Just
good
don't at
time.
all.
But whenever I'm estimating for my Disney World vacation, whatever number we come to, I usually just tack on another 1,000, just so I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I am not a budget person when it comes to vacations. Have you been able to pick up on that throughout the course of this podcast? So I buy the kids all the things that they want. So there are ways that you can cut costs down. Hey folks, Future Matt here. We had a little issue with our audio, so we had to splice some things together. Here comes part 2.
All right. So I saw a post recently where a guy had been to Disney World recently and said, I don't see what the big deal is about. I had, not a great time. And he went in to explain like this. I think he just gone to the parks for 1 day. And he'd done no research, he'd done no planning, and just waltzed into the theme park and was like, I don't get what the big deal is. And I totally understand that experience, but I think that that would be an issue of expectations where this is not a Six Flags. It's not like your local theme park that you can just waltz through the front gate and get in line and do what you want. It does require some research and some planning. Now it's up to you how much research and planning you want to do. I enjoy planning, and in our next episode, we're going to get more into the like nitty gritty of what kind of planning you may want to do before your trip. But I would not recommend just showing up, cold turkey with no information. Because you're going to miss out on stuff that's fun. You're going to do things that you don't enjoy as much as other things that you might enjoy more. It just takes some planning.
Well, it's just the way that it is in life. Like, when I wake up to start my day, I don't just not plan anything. I don't just like, it's lunchtime. I don't get in my car and drive and just like, I guess we'll see what we see. It's like, no, I plan, like, how much time do I have? What do I want to do? What's my budget? Like, anywhere you go in life, there's planning. Now, Disney, there's a lot more planning that you have to do, but you're also going many more places. It's much cooler, so there's a lot more work that you've got to do, but it's no more work than if you were to do any destination vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Any vacation you take is going to take some planning, and this is a vacation. And I think that's maybe the way to think about it. This is I'm going to this destination for a vacation, not just I'm going to visit a theme park, because it is so big and there is so many different things. Um, so that kind of, I just want to start with the negative, kind of clear the air. We're not travel agents. We're not trying to convince you to take a Disney vacation. If you hate crowds, if you're going to be miserable walking around when it's hot outside, if the Disney vibe just isn't your thing, you don't want to spend that much money on a trip, this may not be the spot for you. And yet, despite these things, people travel in droves from all around the world to visit Walt Disney World Resort. Many, it's almost like, if you follow like Disney fans online, I mean, there's so many people who are like, "Oh, I thought I was going on a one and done trip, and now I want to go back every year, or I want to go back as much as I can." So why? Why do people love it so much? And what are the reasons that you maybe should go? Um, And so I thought we could just share with you what we love about Disney and what keeps us coming back. And maybe a good way to do that would be to talk about our first trip that we took together. I had been to Disney before, to Disney World before twice, with my family before Matt and I got married. Matt had never been before. And because I'd gone, I went once as a little kid that I don't really remember, and once as an adult with like extended family. And I enjoyed myself, and I thought, maybe when I have kids, I'd like to take them here sometime. But I kind of assumed, like a lot of people do, I'll wait until they're older. We'll do like one big trip, and that'll kind of be it. Um, but we had kind of a unique experience starting off with our kids when they were young. Our son was born with a genetic disease, and initially, actually, we were told that he wouldn't survive. And the first couple years of his life were really tough, on all of us. And when he was 3, we decided, we're just going to make the most of things, and we're going to have all the experiences that we can have together as a family for as long as we get to keep them. And so, Sonny was 3 and Sis was 4, and we decided that we got a windfall of some money from inheritance. And so we decided we're going to go to Disney. Um,
People, so to stop
yeah.
you there, people say, well, they're too young. How young is too young? I don't know how young is too young, but I do know that 3 and 4 is definitely not too young. And a lot of people say that it is, but those people are like Scrooge McDuck's descendants, I suppose. Because when you're 3 and 4, our kids, like, it was real then. It really was Cinderella. We were really having lunch in actual Cinderella's castle. Mickey Mouse is actually 7 feet tall. Like, there he is. He's right there. It's like, to our kids, that was real. We did Bippity Boppity Boutique, which is the thing where they, sprinkle fairy dust on your daughter or son, I think. And it's like a whole like princess transformation experience, and she really thought she was turning into a princess. Like, it was cool then. And on our most recent trip, they were 8 and 9, and it was still a lot of fun. But they're starting to figure out that it's not real. But when you're 3 and 4, and maybe they won't remember it, and they didn't totally remember everything. But who cares? Who remembers everything? Like, us grown-ups, we often don't remember what we have for breakfast. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't eat breakfast. Like, just because they don't remember every minute detail doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So 3 and 4 is certainly not too young. We know people who have gone with kids that are much, much younger. I guess not much, much younger. You can only be about 3 years younger than 3.
Right.
But any age is good.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a, are my kids too young? If you've made it this far on the podcast and you're like, I hope they're going to get to the age thing. We got to the age thing, and your kids
Yeah.
are not too young, however
No,
young they are.
I would say, yeah, any age is great. I personally wouldn't travel with like a baby under 6 months old just for health reasons. But other than that, I mean, I think, anyone is going to have a good time, and there's a lot of different things to do. So, um, Matt, you had never been to Disney Park before.
Never.
I was wondering if like, what, I don't know, what like struck you, surprised you from that trip that you remember?
There's a few things that surprised me. I guess the one of the big things that surprised me is when the first time that we went, I didn't have a lot of expectations, but I didn't expect that I'd be recording a Disney podcast here
Yeah.
several years later. I didn't think that would be happening.
Mm.
Um, so a lot of surprising. I think one thing that surprised me was just how well done everything is, and I mean everything down to the detail. My very first experience is
Wilderness Lodge.
we stayed at the Wilderness Lodge, which is like one of the higher end lodges. It was very nice. But one of the things that really surprised me was the very first thing we do. We get in, we throw our bags down. I don't want to say we run to the bathroom because that makes us sound like a very strange family. One of our family members run to the bathroom, and the toilet doesn't flush. We
In
spend all this
in
money
our room, in our hotel room.
in our hotel room. The toilet doesn't flush. We spend all this money. We come all this way. I heard Disney's like this magical place, and the toilet doesn't flush. So I call and I'm like, "Hey, we're having an issue." They come. I think we went to the somewhere, and but within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, very quickly, the plumber came up here. They fixed the toilet issue, and they left this little box of chocolates for us that said sorry.
Yeah. Like an
it's
apology
like,
note.
it's like an apology. I've never gotten an apology note when we've really deserved them. We've never gotten them. So that was my first. I was like, we're somewhere different. I know it's expensive, but I feel like I'm getting quite a bit for what I'm paying for. So that was surprising. And I think for me, I'm not a details person, but I really like when people leave Easter eggs around.
Hmm.
And everywhere you go in Disney, there's hidden Mickeys all over the place. And it's just so cool, the attention to detail that goes into everything. And
Yeah.
it gave me so much confidence in all the bigger things we were doing when all the little things were so cool. So that immediately sucked me in right then.
Yeah. I think that one thing that is really neat about Disney World Resort is that it is this um
We didn't even, the parks. I didn't even talk about the parks. I had that's all the surprising, fun, crazy, cool stuff that happened like before we
before
even
we even
got to
got
the
to the
park.
park. Yeah, well, and speaking of which, like that it's all there. Like if you stay at a Disney resort and people will call it like inside the Disney bubble, like you're on Disney property, you don't have to leave it for any reason. You know, everything you're gonna do on your whole vacation is right there. You can leave it if you
They
have your
let you.
car.
It's not a Hotel
Yes.
California situation. They let you.
But you don't have to. The food is there, the fun is there, the pool is there, the um uh your lodgings are there, dinings are, everything you're there. So I really appreciate that. And I never thought about that. I hadn't I'm not a big resort person, maybe you are. And so you've stayed in some places like that, but nowhere as extensive or as immersive as Disney World.
We stayed at a one of the lower budget, I think, art animation, and we parked our car, and we went to all the parks and did all the dining and did everything, and we didn't touch our car again until we left
Yeah.
the hotel. So it's like loading up is really hard for us. Maybe you're a family where loading up in and out is really difficult for you. And we didn't have to. They got buses that take you everywhere,
Yeah.
boats
Yeah.
that take you. They even have Skyliners, plane, train, taxi cab, any mode of transportation you can think of other than your car, they've got.
Hmm.
And you can use it. Obviously, I'm a little facetious, but for the most part, we traveled by sea, water, and air. So,
That
or
is
road, water, and air. So
yes, that is true. Um, yeah, so this was kind of our first. So we went, like we said, our Sonny was 3 and he has a disability and he uses a wheelchair. And at 3 years old, he was already had his manual wheelchair that he was using. So it was the first time we'd really gone. Well, it was the first time well, that's not true. We'd gone on vacation, but it was the first time we'd really gone out with him, like in his wheelchair, and we're trying to get used to that and what it's like. And we were really amazed at how accessible it is. So I think that's another reason why people go back to Disney World. Whatever your accessibility needs are, they do a really good job of accommodating. And there's even because so many people visit Disney World and so many, it's the most popular destination for kids who do make a wish. So a lot of wish kids come through Disney. There are services, like third party services not associated with Disney nearby, that are really like just take worry off your mind. So we travel with some medical equipment, And when we got to our hotel, we realized that we'd forgotten a charger. And this charger is not, you can't buy it, at Walmart. It's like a specialized piece of equipment that has a special charger. So we had the name of a medical rental place, and we called them up. They're like, yep, no problem. I think it was $50 or something. But they brought it straight to our hotel, concierge, and so I can't remember if we ran down and got her. They brought it
Oh,
up, but
it wasn't your typical office DoorDash experience. It was like these people knew exactly what to do and exactly where they were going. I had to give them our hotel, and that was it. I went down there, and they gave it to the front desk person. The front desk person saw me, knew exactly what I needed, and gave it right to me. Like there was no one was hunting for Trina. Like there was no like, where is this person? This one person knows the code. No, it was the buttery smooth experience to get these things delivered. Which, if you have medical or mobility concerns, I would say that's a more of a reason to go to Disney than a reason not to go to Disney. We sorry, I cut Laura off. We
continue.
have a lot of accessibility needs, and so whenever we go somewhere, we're always looking for where the wheelchair ramps are. Whenever we go somewhere, it's, hey, my son's in a wheelchair, how can we do this or how can we do that? And at Disney, it's not that way at all. They see us coming, they say, how many? Can he transfer? Does he stay in the chair? And those are pretty much the questions we ask, and they say, go this way. And by the time, or at the beginning of the line, or the not the line, but we're at the beginning of where we need to go. By the time we get to the next cast member, they know we're coming, they know what we need, and they push us through the next direction. Like, you feel like you're a royalty
Mm-hmm.
when you have mobility needs. Nowhere else does it. We've gone
No.
lots of places, we've gone lots of theme parks. Nowhere does this the way
Yeah.
that Disney does it. You are treated almost better than typical,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
We've earned it.
We've earned it.
So yeah, and that's something that was cool too, because even when he was 3, he was starting to realize, like, we'd go to the playground and, like, he wouldn't be able to do all the things that other kids could do. At Disney, the things that he was not able to do were so far and few between, it was really easy just to avoid them. And that's why I like to plan ahead, I like to do research. One of the reasons is for him still, that if there are things I know he's not gonna be able to do, we can just not go there. And at Disney, those things are really, few. There are not many things that he's not able to do, which is really cool. So, we've kinda talked about this. Another thing that I think is really neat and unique about Disney is just how immersive it is. You're in the Disney bubble, and as soon as you go in, um, it's everything is nice and clean and beautifully landscaped, and it just makes it really easy to disconnect from the problems that you left at home. And I think that's something that is kind of like a part of, I don't know, like the values that we have as a family, or like our like ethos as a family, is that, we have challenges and life is hard, and sometimes you have to go through hard things and you have to work hard and you have to do, get through. But knowing that there are also good things about life. So that's something that we try to instill in our kids. Like, yeah, life can be hard, but the good things, we're going to make a really big deal out of them, and we're going to have fun and we're going to enjoy them. And for them to know that, yeah, life is hard sometimes, but it's not all hard. And I think that Disney just really fits that for our family. Um,
It's true. It's people like to say, and I forgive me if I've said this already. To peel back the curtain a bit, we lost a large portion of our audio while we were recording this, and I can't remember if the story I'm about to tell is in the portion that we lost or the portion that we didn't lose. So we'll see what the final edit.
yeah, we're budding podcasters. We're learning as we go.
We'll see. Sometimes you get double stories, or maybe you get no stories. But a lot of times people want to say, oh, here comes the reality check whenever something bad is about to happen. But at Disney, I remember I was sitting on Main Street USA looking up at this castle and thinking, why can't the reality check be when the good things happen?
Mm.
Why do we need to be cynical and pessimistic? We don't. We can be optimistic. And I realize that I'm sitting here having this epiphany about reality being good, looking at a fake castle. Like, I get it. It's not lost on me. But that's one of the values of Disney, is it tends to almost supernaturally sap the cynicism and pessimism out of you and inject optimism, and it infects the whole family. And it's a really cool thing when everyone's feeling optimistic and hopeful. And I like to go into vacations expecting life-changing moments, so like no biggie, like no no big thing, but I expect these like big moments. And we've had big epiphanies while we've been at Disney World, and they've been family changing, often for the better. So I don't know, it's just been, I don't exactly remember where I was going with this, but it's very cool,
Yeah.
these experiences that you get.
Yeah, and I think part of that is that Disney World is designed, I think all Disney parks, but today we're just talking about Disney World. Disney World is designed for families and whoever you're with, your friends, to have fun together. So when I look at other theme parks, a lot of times there's like kid areas and teen and adult areas. At Disney, you don't have as much of that. Although there are some things that maybe adults prefer, but or kids might prefer, or you just prefer because that's what you're into and that's fine. But we can all, whether you are a toddler up to a grandparent, there are a lot of activities that you can all get on and do together. It's not just waving at the kid going on the carousel or watching them go on the slide and they're like, look, mom, look. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's great. No, you're actually like engaging in this stuff together, experiencing it together. It's also just really high quality. It's expensive, but I mean, honestly, you have to be blind to not go to a Disney park and realize why it is more expensive than your Six Flags, than your, I know when I go, I love, nothing against Six Flags. I like going to those theme parks
Yeah,
too.
Six Flags is catching a lot of strays
Yeah,
on,
sorry.
on this podcast.
I just use it
I've
because
never been to Six Flags. Don't sue me.
I just think because it's Six Flags is like there are Six Flags in many states. So,
Uh-huh.
whatever, fill in the blank for your local um, theme park or the one in your state. Busch Gardens, I don't know, whatever. So
The fish roast on at the Catholic school.
right, yeah, spaghetti dinner.
It's a little different than that.
No, what did we used to have? The corn festival? What was that?
Yeah, down the street was the corn festival.
Corn roast.
Yeah, those rides that you ride on them, and you're like, I got out alive,
Yeah.
and that was my price for admissions.
And there's the bouncy castle. It's got like a new strain of COVID that's growing inside of it.
Half deflated.
Yeah.
So it's not that. That's not what you're getting when you go to Disney. When you go to Disney, it's like the attention to detail, and you can just tell it must be expensive. For example, if you're at Animal Kingdom and you're walking through and you see some animals, and like you're going in and the grass is tall and it has jungle noises piped in. I assume they're not actual jungle animals that are waiting for me, but
there are actual jungle
there
animals.
are jungle animals there, but
they're
not free. And you've got this cool, like, you look at the ground and it's uneven and it's like you're going through this safari path. And then when you veer to the left, there's the Avatar Pandora area. And as you transition into there, and it's so gradual you don't notice it, by the time you're into the Avatar area, which, if you've ever seen or heard of the movie Avatar, it's like this movie where there's blue people and you're on a different planet. And you go there, and the plants are completely different than where they were before, and the audio is totally different. You have what I assume are alien sounding animals being pumped in. The concrete that you're walking on is themed differently. And when you look around, you can't see any remnants of your previous jungle life that you were just living. Like, you are so immersed in the area. And every park has things like that. When you're in Disney World and you're in Fantasyland, you cannot see Frontierland or Tomorrowland, which is shocking because they're right there.
Mm-hmm.
The structures are built in such a way, and the plants are planted in such a way where you are where you are, and you get lost in it. Like, this has to be expensive. Like, it's just got to be expensive to pay the people to do this.
Mm-hmm.
The quality is so outrageous at these parks, and there's I think the best example, and we'll get to it on our Hollywood Studios podcast, is the Star Wars area that they just
That's
put in a
so
Hollywood
cool.
Studios.
Yeah.
You feel like you're on another planet. Like
It really, yeah.
you completely forget that you are even from Earth. Like but they do such a good job, and the quality is so high. And if you're like me, you don't mind paying a lot for something, but you just don't want to walk away feeling like you're an idiot. Like
Yeah.
the worst experience I have is when I go to a sports game and I want an adult beverage and I spend $11 on it. I'm like, this guy is looking at me like I'm an idiot. And I am an idiot. And we both know I'm an idiot. And I don't like feeling like a sucker, but when I spend thousands and thousands at Disney, you don't feel that way. You're like, it's a luxury price for a luxury item. And
Yeah.
it really feels like you're getting what you pay for.
Yeah.
Really. It's not cheap. They don't say it's cheap. No one says it's a discount.
Mhm.
Like it's not billed that way. You know going in that it's
Mhm.
expensive, but if you just look at the bill afterwards, like you know that you're going to have a really good time.
Yeah, and so you have like the performers are top notch, the shows are really awesome, the rides and experiences are really high quality. So,
We go to lots of off-Broadway performances where we live. I don't know if
yeah.
off-Broadway is
Well,
the right
they're
term.
like the traveling Broadway.
Traveling Broadway. We go to a lot of traveling like we go to a lot of theater shows. I mean, the stuff at Disney's not worse.
They're great. Yeah.
It's not like all the performances. They're shorter, they're lower, but like, you know, they're shorter. They're obviously not a Broadway production, but the quality of singing and acting and costuming is all
Mhm.
as good
Yeah, it's
as
really
this
good.
traveling Broadway stuff. Like they
Yeah,
don't
it's cool.
skimp on anything.
Yeah. I think too, I was thinking about taking our kids when they were young, and I remember, so another at Hollywood Studios, there another area there's the Toy Story Land, and part of why I'll encourage you to do just a little bit of research before you go is that you can like notice things and really enjoy them and appreciate, or know like what your kids might be into and help them to have a good time. But so we're going to the Toy Story Land, and I had heard that it was built such that when you go into the land, it's like you become the size of a toy. So even the grasses that they have planted are these huge grasses. They look like, the grass in your front yard, but they're, 3, 4 feet tall. So when you walk in, and so I told my son, I said, "Hey, Sonny, when we go in here, we're gonna shrink down and become like toys." And you look around and there's these army men that are huge, and Woody is giant, and he was like, "Oh my gosh," like I was just so amazed that we were shrinking. And then I wasn't sure if he thought, what he thought about it, or if he even cared that I said that. And a few minutes later he said, "But Mom, how are we going to turn back to regular size?"
That's a great question.
So, it's just very cute, like to have that experience with him. And I think about that, we go back to Toy Story Land. So, and I had one story I wanted to tell at the end, about, what is it that keeps people coming back? What is it that makes them willing to spend the money? What is this magic that Disney has? And it reminded me of um an online interaction and it happened in a group that I'm in, where a woman got on there and she posted to this like page of Disney fans, "Hey, I am in Puerto Rico, and my daughter has gone to Florida, and she's a college student, and she's working for the summer at, I can't remember, at Epcot, I think, at a food booth. And she said it's her birthday today, and I can't be with her. If you go to such and such food booth today and you see my daughter, whatever her name is, would you wish her a happy birthday?" And the comments were just filled with all these people who took time out of their vacation, their park day, to be like, "I saw her and I said happy birthday," and like got a selfie with her. And so here's this cast member who all day is like, "My mom, your mom sent me to wish you a happy birthday." Like it's just so cute. Like where else do you
Yeah.
have strangers who are like, "Yes, I would love to brighten
Uh
someone's
huh.
day." So there's just a lot of things like that happen around Disney and Disney culture that I think, yeah, are why that people keep coming back and people are willing to
Dang man,
invest.
it brings out the best in people. I remember Donovan or he who will not be named, our so he we told him we were calling him Sonny for this podcast, and he hates that we're calling him Sonny. So part of us is doing it because it's going to irritate him. But
Yeah. He thinks that his what do you call it?
his YouTube name,
his pseudonym
yeah,
should be Wolf Boy.
So at first we thought it was Walt Boy, which was super funny.
Yeah, which was like, Walt Boy, great. We're great for our Disney podcast.
But we were waiting, I think, for the other half of my family to come out of an experience at France in Epcot, and this guy walks up to us. He's probably college age, I'd say. Goes, "Hey, you know Messi?" I was like, "Yeah." Where are we going? We're in Florida. Of course I know Messi. And he's like, "Messi's the best." Cool, man. You got it. Messi's the best. And he reaches into his pocket and he hands me for Sonny this little like Messi keychain. And he goes, "Messi the best. Messi's the best." And then he just walks away. I don't know who this person is. If you're listening now, thank you for the little Messi. But it brings out the best in people. It's like people that look all rough and tumble just want to come and like share their good experiences with you. It's a really cool place.
In case our listeners are aware, who is Messi?
Who is Messi?
We're Americans, okay? Well, you might not be an American.
I don't know. If you don't know Messi and you made it this far, I don't know if we need you back for episode 2. Okay, just kidding. Messi is a soccer player. He's the best soccer player in the world. Ronaldo is not the best soccer player in the world. Messi is on commercials. He won the World Cup in 2020. With COVID, who knows, 2020, whatever that World Cup was. At the time of this recording, it's 2024. It had been, 2022 or something, but the real World Cup was 2022, actually. I think I got that right. So this has been the Soccer Minute with We Don't Talk About Disney podcast. And that was Messi is better than Ronaldo. He's a world-famous soccer player. Everyone knows him. And now my son does too, because now he has a Messi keychain that hangs from his backpack.
Did you see, I saw a video going around and it was Ronaldo looking really pissed while people, apparently it was in Japan. There's a whole group of people who were singing to him about Brazil.
No, I don't know about
and
this.
the like title of the video said when Japan thought that Ronaldo was Brazilian.
That's fantastic.
But then in the comments, some people were like, "No, it was just because the World Cup was in Brazil." So I don't know if that's actually true, but it's
who knows? If it's
funny
on the
if true.
Internet, if it's on the internet, it's probably
true.
So anyway, before we get any more off the rails here,
got any final?
I was really hoping thoughts? You did, because I didn't have an end to that sentence.
Well, thanks for hanging with us tonight. We are really glad you're here. We hope that you come back for our next episode, and so we can not talk about Disney some more.
We'll see you real soon.
Welcome to We Don't Talk About Disney, a podcast where we discuss everything Disney, from theme parks, trip planning, and media to news and lore. I'm Laura, and this is my husband.
I was thinking of something else. Can we try? Can we try this? Can we do the thing? So where we like alternate?
No.
Come on. Just try one.
No.
Just try one time. All right,
You're
fine.
really annoying.
Fine. Okay, start over with this is my husband part.
Welcome to We Don't Talk About Disney, a podcast where we discuss everything Disney, from theme parks
to trip planning.
What's wrong with you?